Good morning, students. Let us continue the topic Indigo. Lines from the textbook are: They thought he would demand. They means here all the cheat landlords, British landlords, and he means here Gandhiji. He would demand repayment in full of the money which they had illegally and deceitfully extorted from the sharecroppers. He asked only 50%. There he seemed adamant, writes Reverend J. Hose, a British missionary in Champaran who observed the entire episode at close range, thinking probably that he would not give way. The representative of the planters offered to refund to the extent of 25%, and to his amazement, Mr. Gandhi took him at his word, thus breaking the deadlock. This settlement was adopted unanimously by the commission. Gandhiji explained that the amount of the refund was less important than the fact that landlords had been obliged to surrender part of the money and with it part of their prestige. Therefore, as far as the peasants were concerned, the planters had behaved as lords above the law. Now the peasant saw that he had rights and defenders. He learned courage. There are some meanings here. Deceitfully means dishonestly. Extorted means here took forcibly. Adamant means firm. Amazement means surprise. Obliged means required. Made legally bound to something. Deadlock means a situation in which no progress can be made. Unanimously means without opposition. Prestige means honor, esteem. Defenders means protector. Explanation of the above passages: the moneylenders had thought that Gandhiji would ask for the full payment of the money which they had taken from the peasants forcefully and fraudulently, but he asked for only 50% and his decision was firm. A missionary, Reverend J. Hose, who had a close watch on the matter, reported this. The planters offered to pay only 25% as they thought it would be rejected by Gandhi. He immediately accepted it. Gandhi said that the amount of money was not important, but by giving money, the planters had bowed down to the peasants and had given away their honor too. The planters, who earlier behaved as if they were above the law, now had to abide by it. This made the peasants realize their rights and give them courage to fight for them. Events justified Gandhiji's position. Within a few years, the British planters abandoned their estates, which reverted to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping disappeared. Gandhiji never contented himself with large political or economic solutions. He saw the cultural and social backwardness in the Champaran villages and wanted to do something about it immediately. He appealed for teachers, Mahadev Desai and Narhar Parikh, two young men who had just joined Gandhiji as disciples, and their wives volunteered for their work. Several more came from Bombay, Pune, and other distant parts of the land. Let me say the country. Devdas, Gandhiji's youngest son, arrived from the ashram, and so did Mrs. Gandhi. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages. Kasturbai taught the ashram rules on personal cleanliness and community sanitation. Justified means here marked by a good or legitimate reason. Abandoned means deserted or inhabited. Estates means property. Reverted means returned. Contented means willing to accept something. Satisfied. Explanation of the above passages. Events had proven Gandhiji's position. The British planters had to leave their property within the next few years. These properties were returned back to the peasants. Indigo sharecropping soon came to an end. Gandhi was not satisfied by achieving political or economic solutions. He sought to remove the cultural and social backwardness of Champaran. Gandhiji wanted to do something to remove the backwardness in the villages of Champaran. He requested teachers such as Mahadev Desai and Narhar Parikh and their wives to teach the villagers. Both of them were followers of Gandhi. Many other volunteers came from Bombay and Pune to join them. Mrs. Gandhi and their youngest son Devdas arrived from the ashram for their help. Primary schools were opened in 6 villages where Kasturbai used to teach the ashram rules on cleanliness and community sanitation. Health conditions were miserable. Gandhiji got a doctor to volunteer his services for 6 months. 3 medicines were available: castor oil, quinine, and sulfur ointment. Anybody who showed a coated tongue was given a dose of castor oil. Anybody with malaria fever received quinine plus castor oil. Anybody with skin eruptions received ointment plus castor oil. Gandhi noticed the filthy state of women. State means their condition. Women's clothes. He asked Kasturbai to talk to them about it. One woman took Kasturbai into her hut and said, "Look, there is no box or cupboard here for clothes. The sari I am wearing is the only one I have." Dear students, some meanings are here. Miserable means unhappy or sad. Volunteer means a person who offers his services free of cost. Eruptions means here a spot, rash, or other mark appearing suddenly on the skin. Explanation of the above passages. The health conditions of the people of Champaran were very poor. So Gandhiji got a doctor who offered his services free of cost for 6 months. There were only 3 medicines: castor oil, quinine, and sulfur ointment available. A patient with a coated tongue was given castor oil, or malaria patient was served a dose of quinine, and a patient with a skin disorder was given ointment and castor oil. The women of the area used to wear dirty clothes. When Gandhiji tried to know the reason through his wife, he was told that those were the only saris each of the women had. During this long stay in Champaran, Gandhiji kept a long distance watch on the ashram. He sent regular instructions by mail and asked for financial accounts. Once he wrote to the residents that it was time to fill in the old latrine trenches and dig new ones, otherwise, the old ones would begin to smell bad. The Champaran episode was a turning point in Gandhiji's life. What I did, he explained, was very ordinary thing. I declared that the British could not order me about in my own country. Instructions means here orders, commands. Residents means locals. Explanation of the above lines is: while Gandhiji was in Champaran, he kept a long distance vigil on the ashram. He used to send letters of orders regarding financial matters. Once he wrote to the locals that it was time to dig new latrine trenches as the old ones had started giving foul smell. The Champaran incident changed Gandhiji's life. He said that he had done a regular thing. He had put his point across that the Britishers could not order him in his own country. But Champaran did not begin as an act of defiance. It grew out of an attempt to alleviate the distress of large numbers of poor peasants. This was the typical Gandhi pattern. His politics were intertwined with the practical day to day problems of the millions. His was not a loyalty to abstractions, it was a loyalty to living human beings. In everything Gandhi did, moreover, he tried to mold a new free Indian who could stand on his own feet and thus make India free. Defiance means here opposition, elevate means uplift, distress means torture, intertwined means twisted or braided, knitted. Abstractions means here something which exists only as an idea. Explanation of the above passages. The Champaran Satyagraha was not an act of opposition. It was an attempt to help out the poor and tortured peasants. This was Gandhiji's way to solve issues. His politics was knitted up with the everyday problems faced by the millions of people. He did not aim at the fulfillment of ideas, rather, he was concerned for the people. The basic idea was to serve humanity and make a free Indian who could stand for his rights. Further lines from the textbook are: early in the Champaran action, Charles Freer Andrews, the English pacifist who had become a devoted follower of the Mahatma, came to bid Gandhi farewell before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Gandhiji's lawyer friends thought it would be a good idea for Andrews to stay in Champaran and help them. Andrews was willing if Gandhiji agreed, but Gandhi was vehemently opposed. He said, "You think that in this unequal fight it would be helpful if we have an Englishman on our side. This shows the weakness of your heart. The cause is just and you must rely upon yourselves to win the battle. You should not seek a prop in Mr. Andrews because he happens to be an Englishman." He had read our minds correctly, Rajendra Prasad comments, and we had no reply. Gandhi in this way taught us a lesson in self-reliance. Self-reliance, Indian independence, and help to sharecroppers were all bound together. Pacifist means here peacemaker. Vehemently means in an intense manner. Self-reliance means self-sufficiency or self-support. Prop means support. Explanation of the above passage is: Charles Freer Andrews, who was a peacemaker, visited Gandhiji before going on a tour of duty to the Fiji Islands. Gandhiji lawyer friends wanted Andrews to stay at the ashram and help them, but Gandhiji refused. He said that they did not need the help of Britishers as it showed a lack of trust in their own abilities. He asked them not to seek any help from Andrews as he was an Englishman. Rajendra Prasad later on stated that Gandhi had read their thoughts and his reply served as a lesson of self-sufficiency for them. Being self-dependent, free and helping the peasants, all these acts of Gandhi were interconnected. So in this way the chapter gets over. Thank you, students.